thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for accepting being part of this project. And so let's
Glad to be
start.
here.
That's really good. And well, starting, I'd like you to tell about your experience in the real estate industry and the prop tech ecosystem.
Right, right. So we started this company about 4 years back, and we started this as a 3D printing company. We did not start it with a major focus in the construction industry, but around December 2017, we got a project to work on building a 3D printer for a very reputed university that we are associated with. So we collaborated with them to develop a 3D printer for the construction industry, and that's how we started marching into the 3D printing and construction domain. So we have been focusing on building a full scale, a full stack construction 3D printing solution for the Indian and the global market, but our first focus is on India. So that's how we started. But I have an experience in mechanical engineering. I am a graduate from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and I did my BTech in mechanical engineering and then my master's in product design. So after graduating, I've been constantly associated with the civil engineering department of IIT Madras, which is the Indian Institute of Technology Madras, the premier engineering institution in India. And along with them, we have been working with several corporate clients to promote 3D printing within the construction industry. So I've been associated with several major Indian construction companies and several material manufacturers in the Indian construction domain. And also we have been working with architects, real estate companies, and real estate organizations in India. So I've been interacting with a lot of these ecosystem players over the last 4 years. And that's the experience that I have as a person in the construction industry.
That's impressive. And well, about your company a bit more, let's go deeper on your company and why and
Sure.
how your company was created.
Right. So we started business as a company in 2016 August. That's when we started operating officially as a business, but I have been working in the area of 3D printing for about 6 years now. I started building smaller 3D printers when I was in college, and I got a couple of my colleagues to sort of join me in building small scale 3D printers that we could use for prototyping and developing solutions. But then we understood that there is a gap in the uh, industrial 3D printing market where 3D printing was not an industry that had developed to such an extent that you could buy a 3D printer and use it directly. You could not use a plug and play kind of an approach for 3D printing. You needed customized solutions. So that's when we decided that if we can build 3D printers which are customized for industry players, and if we can sort of build 3D printing platforms and allow industry corporate majors to develop applications on top of them, there would be a wider adoption of 3D printing within various markets. Because what was lacking in the industry was uh, an application focus, in the sense you could not just buy a 3D printer and use it for your application. The 3D printers that are available in the market are very generic. So we wanted to offer a platform that we could customize for each customer. So a customer can buy a 3D printer from us. We will handhold them for about a couple of years to enable mass production or um, integrating 3D printing into their value chain, and then they can take it forward. So we thought by adopting this approach, 3D printing will become much more mainstream within the manufacturing construction industry, and we would be able to penetrate a bigger market. And we have been seeing results because of this approach. 3D printing even today is just entering the mainstream manufacturing and construction industry. It's not become a mainstay technology in these industry spaces. That's primarily because 3D printing players are building, I would say to an extent, one size fits all 3D printers. There has to be much more application focus where we understand from the customer side what they require and then tailor make our solutions for them. So that's how we started operating in 2016, and we started offering consultancy services in the area of 3D printing for major industry players, and then we sort of pivoted into developing 3D printing platforms that we have been providing to our customers on the top of so they can use these platforms to develop their applications. We will handhold them and we'll enable them to use these 3D printings directly for their problems. So that's what Tvasta stands for. And Tvasta is a company that works in multiple verticals. Construction is a vertical. We have been present in the manufacturing space as well. We have a deep focus in the manufacturing industry. But in the construction industry, we have been developing 3D printers. We have been developing materials that can be used along with our 3D printers. We have also co-developed a software solution that we can use for our 3D printers. And we have also been working with major construction research players in India to come up with a structural and codal solution for the problems that the construction industries have. I mean, codal provisions are an important aspect that promotes any technology within the construction industry. So we have been working with major government and non-government players in this domain to enable wider adoption of construction 3D printing technology.
Yeah, I understand. And in terms of products, what people can buy from you?
Right. So people can buy construction 3D printing services and construction 3D printing products from us. We sell 3D printers. We sell 3D printers of various types for research and development and also for production. People can also approach us with a request to 3D print certain types of structures. It might be for affordable housing. It could be for architectural purposes. It could be for infrastructure projects. So they can come to us with a request for 3D printing services where they do not invest in the capital expenditure, capex. We own the 3D printer. We print and provide structures to them as a service. So that is also something that we offer. And once a person buys a 3D printer from us, we work with them to enable 3D printing as a solution. That is, we handhold them for a little while, and also we provide raw material support to them so that they can continue with their production activity.
Very interesting. And what are the key points of differentiation of your company?
Right. So we are a full stack provider of 3D printing solution. In the sense, we have complete control over the design process of our 3D printer. We design, develop, and manufacture our own 3D printers, of course, in partnership with a lot of vendors. We develop the raw material ourselves, so we have much better control on the cost of the raw material. We partner with other players in the industry to manufacture it in larger quantities. And once we have better control over our machine and material, we can marry them in a better manner. That is, they work together much better. And we also developed our own software, so it is possible for us to customize and enable our customers to use our 3D printers in a much better manner. So we own the full stack, and there are very few other companies in the world which own the entire technology from development to application. So we do that. The other aspect which differentiates us is our platform plus application approach. To explain it further, what we mean by that is we develop 3D printing platforms which have a very broad, if I may use the word, mandate. These 3D printers can be used for very different purposes. But when we provide it as a solution to a customer, we work with them to understand what their application is. We allow them to test within our facility, develop their solution within our facility. And when we hand over the 3D printer to them, we hand over a complete solution. We just don't sell them a 3D printer and then move away. What we are providing is a complete solution that they can use for their production from day one. So that differentiates us in the sense we have a platform plus application approach, and we understand that 3D printing is not a technology that has evolved to such an extent that people can just buy it and start using it from day one. It's not like a TV that you can just buy, plug in, and start operating from the next day.
Yeah, interesting. And what about the future? What solution or products you are developing now and expect to have in the future?
Yeah, so we are developing solutions that can enable affordable housing to happen in a much faster and cost-effective manner. So India, as you might know, is one of the booming infrastructure and construction markets in the world. We are currently the third largest construction market, and we are estimated to become the second largest by 2022, and the fastest growing construction market by 2025 in dollar terms. So when that happens, there is a massive requirement for affordable houses that is coming up in India, and the government has a plan to build about 20 million houses by the year 2022, and about 100 million houses are estimated to be required by the year 2030 by Habitat for Humanity. So when that massive requirement comes, there is no way conventional construction technologies can provide affordable houses around India at a cost in a cost-effective manner within this very tight timeline. And India, as you might know, is a very large country, and unlike the US, European countries, or even to an extent China, India's population is very widely dispersed within the country. So it has the largest number of villages. It has the longest road network in the world, because its population, most of the Indian population, that is almost 60%, lives in rural areas, that is tier 3, tier 4 cities, which are not major cities. So you need a construction solution that can really go into the rural market. You cannot have a centralized factory like precast, or you cannot have a centralized solution for India's construction problems. So what we are developing is a distributed manufacturing process, where the 3D printers will be much more agile, mobile, and can really go out into the field, cater to the requirements of a rural booming construction market. So affordable housing, as I said, is a major solution that we are planning to provide, and the solution which will involve 3D printers, a material transportation, logistics, and a material solution. We'll also have a full stack construction solution that will be enabling 3D printing of the structure. We'll also work with our partners to enable the houses to be produced in a cost-effective manner while integrating utilities, tiling, roofing, etc. So we are working with partners to ensure that the house is built within a very strict cost parameter.
Yeah, it's
So,
interesting you mentioned, because the affordable houses is I have seen in many other countries in the world, and I saw that 3D is very high cost technology for building housing, especially for affordable. So how are you balancing, and how are you what are the points that make you cost effective for this market?
Right. So 3D printing is currently very costly. That's primarily because the technology is in its infant stage. And also the cost of materials is extremely high. So 3D printing uses concrete, but a special type of concrete. And the cost of manufacturing this concrete is much, much higher than the cost of conventionally manufacturing concrete. So this cost has to come down over a period of time. And we are working on reducing the cost of our material. 3D printing as a process is currently not as fast as it should be. Speed certainly will reduce cost with respect to capital and also human resources. We're also enabling our 3D printers to be much more robust, and hence the 3D printing process can be carried out by engineers or technicians who are not extremely well trained. That is, they do not require a lot of training to operate our 3D printers. We are making it as user friendly as possible, and we are trying to ensure that two persons can operate our entire system of 3D printing. So the labor requirement will fall from 15 or 20 to 2 when you're building a larger structure. And also we are trying to enable our 3D printers to be much more versatile, and our 3D printers will move from machines that can just build a superstructure to machines that are capable of doing much more. So we'll be trying to broaden our capability of automating the construction process beyond building just the superstructure. So all these factors, when put together, can reduce the cost to a large degree.
Nice, excellent. And which countries do you operate today, and where do you plan to take your business in the future?
Right. So we primarily operate in India at this point of time. Moving forward, we see India to be a very good market for us to expand. There is enough space for a large number of players. There is a lot of demand, a lot of interest in 3D printing. And India, as I said, is a booming construction market. a lot of the construction demand in India comes from rural areas, which cannot be catered to with certain types of technologies. Um, so India will be the main focus of our company, but moving forward, we see a lot of opportunity coming from Africa, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. These countries are having their own construction booms, and we see a lot of opportunity for expanding in infrastructure in these three markets. Africa, especially in the long run, is a very interesting market for us, and it's sort of shaping up the way India is shaping up with a time lag. So we are looking at expanding into Africa in a short while.
Nice. And can you tell us a successful case with a client?
Yeah, sure. I cannot name the client because we currently have ongoing projects with them, but it's a major construction company in India who we are working with to enable printing of small structures which are similar to toilet modules and toilet pods. So we 3D printed several structures for them, which they are planning to use for their corporate social responsibility initiative. India has a massive toilet construction project where they're planning to build about 120 million toilets all across the country. And this has been a very successful project. And several companies have adopted villages and are constructing their own structures as a part of contributing to the society. And this company is partnering with us to enable building of such toilet modules in a distributed fashion, and also building toilet blocks for their large construction projects, which they are currently executing as well. So this has been successfully done, and we are currently we are currently taking up a detailed case study of the cost and various types of toilet modules that we can execute for them. And this project is currently ongoing, and it's being done in a very successful manner.
Wow, very interesting. And how it works? You build this on your facilities and then transfer it to a place, or do you build it in? All right.
Right. So we have two models at this point of time. One is what we call factory-based 3D printing, and one is off-site 3D printing. So factory-based 3D printing is where we have larger 3D printers in our factories. We build modules and then we assemble them on site. So that happens in major cities. So we are currently doing that in Chennai in India. And we are also building 3D printers that can be assembled and disassembled very fast. And so they'll be assembled right next to the structure or near a location where multiple structures have to be built. They'll build these structures and then they'll be just picked and assembled on site. So that's what we call offsite 3D printing, but we are not currently proceeding with a complete on-site solution where the 3D printer goes on the site and completely builds there without any assembly process. Not doing that at this point.
Nice. And what are you looking for at this moment? Investment, expansion, consolidation, growth?
Yeah. So we're just closing our investment round at this point of time. We will be focusing on just closing the investment round, so that those procedures are ongoing, and we'll be looking at technology development and consolidation. To be very frank, we have projects which are to be executed over next year and the year after that. So we are currently sort of packed with orders. So what we will be planning is to demonstrate our technological capabilities, conduct several case studies, and enable our technology to be robust enough for a great deal of expansion 2 years from now. So we are looking at hitting a deep growth phase about 2 years from now. But over the next 2 years, we'll be focusing on technology development and consolidation.
Beautiful to see. And now I'd like to ask you a few questions about your opinion over the PropTech ecosystem. Sure. The real estate market is seen as conservative in relation to other sectors. Right. Does this the same in India?
Right. So in a sense, it is in the sense that the construction or the PropTech industry is a little slow in adopting technologies. They prefer to stick to what has been tried and tested. Conventional construction is cheap in India because of the cost of labor. The cost of labor is extremely low. and hence there has been a lack of adoption of technologies in the construction industry for a very long period of time. For example, precast is still considered a new technology in India. Although precast has existed in India for almost 60, 70 years, it has not been adopted by a lot of players. Most of them go for conventional construction technologies. And this has been a problem. And many contractors are not willing to adopt new technologies. But there is a massive government push to enable technology to penetrate into the construction industry, and they're trying to promote new technologies and codal provisions, etc. Codal approvals are being granted in a much faster manner. So we see a very positive response from the government with respect to 3D printing and other new technologies. From construction players as well, there is a lot of interest in what technologies can deliver. But overall, I would say the industry is quite conservative. There's a lack of agility that they show in comparison with other manufacturing and software industries.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah.
And what about the role of startups and new technologies on this change?
Right. So I would say a lot of startups and a lot of new companies, which are not really sometimes classified as startups, are playing a very important role in moving the construction industry forward. There is a lot of automation, the possibilities for automation within the construction industry, and several new companies, including startups and mid-sized companies, are taking it up. There is a lot of adoption of BIM technologies and robotics and AI that is going on in the construction industry, but it's being adopted by the top players. But I mean, it's slowly percolating to the bottom rung players within the construction industry. So I would say that the role of startups is extremely important in pushing the technology forward, especially since India is really undergoing its first wave of building its own indigenous technology companies. Several companies in Europe and US have already built their own indigenous technologies and exported it worldwide. And the startups of 1960s, 1970s are mature companies in Europe and US, but India is really undergoing its first wave with the current startup revolution. And these companies will push technology into the market for the first time in India. So I think the startup ecosystem and the startup revolution in India that is happening now currently is very important, will change the face of Indian industry for years to come. And many of them will become global players, and we hope to be a global player along with them as well.
Yeah, sure, you will be. And in your opinion about the prop techs, what keeps big companies away from the development of products and solutions just like startups?
So I think with respect to large construction companies, they already have something that works on the ground. They are familiar with a conventional way of building. They're familiar with experimenting conventionally, and hence they are sort of reluctant to try out new things. And construction industry, as you know, it's not an industry where you can move through various products very fast. In software industry, there is this minimum viable product and quick sort of revamping of product that is possible if something goes wrong, bug fixes, etc. That is not possible within the construction industry. All the projects that they execute involve a high amount of capital expenditure. So it's very important in the construction industry to get experiments right. There is very minimal room for failure because of the nature of the industry itself. And this prevents larger companies from experimenting too much. This is certainly a problem, and many of them are very successful companies, and success always prevents you from trying out new things. So this is another factor. And I would say there is a reluctance to engage with smaller players, small industries and medium-sized industries in a collaborative manner by sort of reaching out to them. That reluctance is there within many players, and this sort of insulates them from the broader market in a lot of ways. They are forced to develop their own technologies, and when you have a very bureaucratic process, it becomes very difficult to push innovation. And many Indian construction companies are very bureaucratic. So that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah, agree.
Yeah.
And now about the relation between startups and small high technological companies and big corps. And what type of partnerships do you think that are most sustainable for big corps and small companies?
Right. So I think it's very critical to develop a culture of collaboration and develop a template in which these companies can work together. I think big corporations have to show a big heart in dealing with smaller and medium-sized companies, uh, doing payments on time, enabling smaller companies to collaborate with them on existing projects, experiment, try out, uh, investing more in research and development. So I think the last one, that is investing more in research and development, is a very important thing. There has to be more experimentation done. So bigger companies have to show a bigger heart in dealing with smaller companies. That would, I think, push collaboration. The other aspect would be, in what way do we see uh, that relationship maturing? So I think in several other industries like software or electronics, one good culture is that of larger companies acquiring smaller companies with a fair payout. That is, they acquire them in a ethical and a good manner, which promotes such companies in the long run. That is, there will be more incentives for employees of existing companies to go out, build their companies, because they know that if their technology succeeds, a larger corporation is willing to come, pay them, and acquire them, pay them a fair amount for their technology. So I think it's very important for a good mergers and acquisition culture to develop within any industry, because only that will enable or incentivize industry insiders to go out on their own and build new technologies and new companies. And larger corporations, instead of copying them and trying to destroy them in any manner, should go out, bring them in into their larger corporation and enable them to pursue their technology dreams within the structure of a larger enterprise or an organization. So I think if a good M&A culture develops within an industry, I think it will enable larger corporations to get more technology, to build better processes, and it will incentivize more technology to be developed by industry insiders who know how the process should work. So I think that is extremely important uh, from a 10 to 15-year horizon of any industry's development. On the current COVID situation and how it is affecting the real estate industry. We see a similar situation in India as well. People are losing jobs and consumer confidence is going to come down, and the amount of money that consumers have in their hands will certainly come down. So we see a lot of large housing projects, etc., not having enough customers, and several real estate projects in major Indian cities will get affected, certainly. But we also see that several governments are coming up with stimulus packages, and the easiest uh, sort of mode for a government to promote economic activity again is infrastructure spending. So I see that a little more money might be routed into the infrastructure segment over the next few years, but that might not be enough to compensate for the losses that industry is suffering because of coronavirus. Several other industries will be affected, but I think the infrastructure industry might get promoted a little bit more by the government, because at least in India, the government is the largest, by far the largest investor in infrastructure projects. So I think that aspect is certainly there, but I see at least for the next 2 years, the real estate industry is going to be in a bad situation, because the existing projects will not have enough customers, and investors will be reluctant to start new projects unless they see consumer confidence going up.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very tough situation. But well, as with good planning, hard working, we can overcome this situation. Adithya, that was amazing conversation with you. Thank you very much for your time. See you soon. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. Yeah. Hope you're staying safe. Yeah.
You too. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.